Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwash Book Series. I have another amazing guest over here. We had just a little bit of conversation before the interview, and she's amazing. She's been in a business for a while. She's helping people with their stories and the social presence and so on. So it's a really, really powerful topic to go through, and dive deep into. I'm really, really interested in her way of thinking and how she sees a business and what she went through when it comes to what she's gone through when it comes to her beginning of the journey and so on. So, without further ado, I'm super pumped to have Molly Gomez in here. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Adam. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to be able to just share whatever part of the journey people are most interested in. And there's lots of good stuff in there. So I can't wait to dive right on in.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. And let's start at the beginning. You know, who actually Molly Gomez is.
Yes. Well, I will say I'll give you the short version because it's not like we have forever, and I'm sure we'll take a deeper dive on some of this. But my first career and profession, because a lot of people just the temperature of your show, people want to know like, how did you get there? How did you get through this? Going into entrepreneurship. Well, my first career, I was a news anchor and reporter here in America, and I got into that to tell people stories until I realized, ooh, those stories are horrible, and they're just like if it bleeds it leads, if it's death and destruction it's headlines, and it was just what kind of life is that? The
Mm-hmm.
newsroom people were toxic, like the money was horrible, so I'm like, what am I doing coming out of college? Like, what is this? But I realized it was a training ground. And when I was about 2 years into the industry, Periscope, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all these live capabilities started popping up. And I knew there was going to be a big shift in a matter of years because technology was moving so fast. So I tried to get as much experience as I could. I was on the anchor desk, I did sports, weather, produced. I mean, I was one of their top breaking news reporters where I would just run out the door whenever something breaking news would hit. But then I was fired for basically wanting to have a little side hustle on the side, helping inspire people to become their best self. They didn't like that. They pushed against it, and I pushed back, and they eventually fired me over it. And I realized right then and there, first of all, the burden lifted, and I was like, oh, this is done, finally. But I realized I could not work for anybody else ever again. So I took that side hustle, and it was a nutrition fitness business paired with network marketing products that led me down to just the industry of network marketing to really be able to learn sales skills, get leadership, and just really be able to like kind of see some of the ins and outs of businesses with low overhead. That then led me into digital marketing, where I then transferred into the digital marketing industry, worked with my now brother-in-law, and was teaching coaches how to build and scale their business. And I did a lot of marketing and scaling for them until I realized, wait a second, they all need the skill set that I have, which is how can you be more impactful with how you share your story? Because without your story, without your lived experience, you're just doing a commercial, and people are tired of social media being commercials. So that really sparked an idea. I created my first consulting business, was making multiple six figures, and then the Lord took it away and said, I'm putting you into something else. Then I built an international kingdom membership for 5 years with a couple other partners. Then the Lord shut the door and said, you're going to go build something else. So I have started so many different businesses, had decent success in them, but it was all training ground. And now I really am in the sweet spot of what I love to do, of helping people step into their story. And a lot of people that I work with are in the multiple 6 to 8 figure range where they haven't really used their story, not much, anyways, up until now. But this is where we really get to step into it powerfully and not be on the defensive side, but be proactive of how can we use that as leverage? How can we use that lived experience to really make a connection? So really being able to take a deep dive into that, whether it's, private advisory coaching or even in my inner circle called the Aligned and Assigned Inner Circle, where it's a tight knit community for high caliber women. And refining your voice is such a big part of it. And there's so much more, but we'll just kind of put a pause on it for now because I'm sure you have other questions after all of that.
No, awesome. I love it. Okay, so I clearly see that you went through a lot of, ups and downs and so on. And there are, people have to realize that the business is this way. It's not about, streamline, basically, that everything's gonna work out in the first 10, right? Um,
Mhm.
that's basically even my pretty much scenario that, I haven't been always this way, like, straight into business and so on. So my question would be, have you been like in business, like, this type of mindset, growing businesses or being a business straight at the beginning, or like you had this type of different way of thinking when you've been in a school already or so on?
I was not raised in an environment where you were an entrepreneur, you go do your own thing. It was here's what's set before you, pick what's on the table, and then go for it. So when I
Mhm.
became a news anchor and reporter, that was still kind of left field, if you will, of wait, what are you doing? Nobody does that. And I'm like, exactly. I don't want to be like everybody else. But when I
Right.
was fired, it was a whole like door opened of people being like, "What are you doing? This is so disappointing. How could you do that?" And that hurt for a while. I had
Yeah.
to really mourn so many different opinions of people I cared about based on like their limited information. It's like you should ask me questions rather than just assume. So the growth mindset was an entire journey of who do I want to become? How can I get there? And I remember in my first network marketing business that the door that opened for me of okay, let me get in here. Low overhead is like $100 a month. I'm getting all this training, being around all these people, no brainer. It really was a no brainer. The
Mhm.
woman who was at the top of the company at that time, never met her in person for years, but I followed what she did on social media. I followed, I'm like, what kind of mind does she have? What kind of rooms is she in? What is she doing in order to get here? That's how I had to start thinking. And
Mhm.
literally, that was free. Took time and it took effort on my part, but it was free. And so then I have a whole journey of what I've invested into myself since then.
Mhm.
But it started with what was before me, what was I willing to do to extract from it, and then figure out my own way to get there.
Okay. So, that said, then, how was the journey for you when it comes to rebuilding yourself into a person that actually is capable of doing this? What you had to go through, and like how many things you had to unlearn and like, um, completely changed for yourself so you can be this type of person with this success and so on.
I love that you said, "What did you have to unlearn?" Because that is a
Mhm.
key part. A lot of us are focused on what should we learn, but we need to unlearn a lot. So I had to unlearn of just releasing control. I had to unlearn you can't manage people, you need to lead them. You need to guide them. I had to unlearn, let's see what else. Yeah, just I was raised with so much. I can't say that I was raised. I harbored so much anxiety because I didn't know the outlet. When really it was like when something's bothering you, let's dig deep into that root system, if you will, of what is it? Where did it come from? So I have been, ever since I became an entrepreneur, I have really chosen to take a deeper dive on things of I'm feeling this way, but it's not as simple as what's just behind it. There's a pattern, there's a root system. So I had to unlearn a lot of negative thinking, really being hard on myself. And if I could pin it down to one thing I had to unlearn the most was a performance mindset. Now, that may
Mhm.
sound crazy as an entrepreneur because, like, we need to perform. We need to go
Yep.
after it and get it done. And that has brought me to a point which is great. But if you are all about performance, like I was, then you are never feel like you're doing enough. You're always feeling like you're behind. You feel like you have to perform for everything, love included, everything, not just business. And it really did a number on me in a negative way. So I had to unlearn that performance mindset, but set my objectives and goals and understand that I'm planting seeds. I'm going out there and doing what I can with my land, what's been given to me. And then, social media gets to water those seeds. And then ultimately, in my belief and in my opinion, God is in charge of the harvest. So it's like he can do whatever he wants, bringing in that harvest. So that was a big lesson for me to not only just kind of know head knowledge, but really get into the heart.
So then the question is, why is so important?
Why is it so important to unlearn, to like become a better version of yourself, to,
No, no, no.
know what your assignment is?
Why is it so important to get to get to let go the person, basically, like, to what did you say, that literally, like, the performance, to
Hmm.
let go the performance, like being the performance, trying to be the performance? Why is that? What is causing you to actually, if you're going to try to be the performance all the time and trying to, just succeed in any area of the trajectory that it can take you, why is so important to just let it be and like lead lean with the circumstances?
It's so important to not let performance constantly drive you because
Hmm.
otherwise you'll have no peace. And peace
Mm.
is something that is like, I mean, people will pay whatever they can to have that. But if
Uh-huh.
you're constantly holding on, trying to control, trying to manage, it's just like I'll paint this picture. It's like a farmer. Now, a farmer knows he has to make sure the ground is right, plant the seed, give the seed what it needs, water, sunlight, food, soil,
Mhm.
and then the harvest eventually comes. That is the same with entrepreneurship. But yet we're strangling a lot of these seeds. We're
Mhm.
smothering a lot of these seeds. We're trying to go in overtime, and performance usually is an overdrive type of a mindset where this is where you get the team no sleep and do whatever it takes. Like that's not how we were wired. That's not how we were created. And so we just look at society doing these things, and where does that leave them? They may have the money and the lifestyle you want, but they are broken, miserable on the inside, and their families are fractured. So we have to really let go of these things in order to really get back to why are you doing this in the first place? And for
Mhm.
me, I had to really get out of the performance mindset because my whole goal of coming into entrepreneurship is to have time freedom for my family and to go out there and to be used as a vessel for the kingdom. And I can't do that chained to a desk. I can't do that chained to a business that I created. I need leverage. And so I have to let go of certain things, or this is a whole nother conversation entirely, delegate and be able to hire people so
Mhm.
I can get that time back.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so are you the we have this belief installed in us that most of the time the man should be the provider. So how is it for you in your personal life and so on?
That is a very interesting question because I remember with one of the builds that I had, I think it was actually my one of my first consulting business, maybe my second major business that I made created. I had this conversation with my husband, still performance mindset all over the place, and I said, "Honey, this is going to make so much money. You'll be able to take a sabbatical, figure out what you want to do in life." Like cuz he wasn't really sure the path that he was on, like, "Do I really want to stay here?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. I got it." Oh, was there a different plan? Was there a different plan? Because in my mindset, it was coming in as the savior. Like, I'm going to save us and I'm going to, do all these things because I know this is going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, there are many women out there where they are the main provider. They are bringing in, most of the income. And however it works in your household, amazing. Back then, I was like, I'm going to be the one. But I had to learn and unlearn so much over the years. And I've been married for just about 6 years of, that was such wrong thinking. Now, when businesses or investments and things grow, great. But it should never be like, okay, go ahead and take a break because my husband has things that he needs to do and step
Mhm.
into. So, we have had seasons both being entrepreneurs where, I've made more, he's made more, we've made about the same, and so it balances itself out. But there's never I'm better than you, I'm doing more than you. That never came into the picture. And if that's somebody that's listening to this right now, like, I just hope that you can find restoration in that because that is a nasty plague. I'm doing more than you, this and that can come into play very easily on either side if you let it.
Yeah, 100%. It's really actually it's really interesting because like I don't know where this even like this type of thinking came from, right? Um, I didn't have any type of conversation about this pretty much. So do you is it some from the old generation type of thing that we've been do you, what is your thoughts on that actually?
That's yeah, I really believe it's just how society has been for so long. Men will go out and provide, women will stay, in the home. But then I can't remember what war it was. I think it was World War II, I believe, that men were gone and women started picking up jobs. They started figuring out how they can provide and do things. And so women are like, wait, there's so much more than we can do. And so then that vision sparked a long time ago. So, there are a lot of traditional homes where the man does provide and then the woman's at home, taking care of the home. But, from somebody who's lived in Southern California for many years, we recently just moved. It has to be a two income family in order for you to be able to really like even just make it, let alone have a
Understand.
comfortable
Yeah.
life. So, a lot of like living, like how you live, just to be in basic living, you have to have dual income. But it really is that old mindset. I look at it like no matter what your agreement is with your spouse of what you want to do, as long as that spouse is supportive and you guys figure out what works best for you for what you need for your family, because I know some families where the man only works and the woman
Mhm.
could, and it's a lot of pressure on the man. Well, speak up and say something so we could do something, or you maybe even vice versa. But all of that boils down to communication of what do you really need, and let's name it and let's voice that.
Yeah. Do you think, or in your opinion, people are, because we are trained to do not really communicate effectively, in my
Mhm.
opinion, like, with the schooling system and everything, like what we are even like taught by our parents or our close ones, really, like, do you think this is a big struggle when it comes to even like a partnership in business, when you have, for example, partners in a business, and like having the correct communication, set it up, and so on, like, because, for example, in my scenario, um I've been always a little bit different when it comes to, life, the normal life. I've been always the dreamer, trying to figure out stuff out, and so on, like always doing, like, people have been just, yeah, it was a rough time for me during the school, to actually even like figure things out, what is going on, and seeing my parents going like 3 jobs and being like, don't be able to even take care of us, and so on, like, because they've been always in the work. So I've been growing up with my grandparents most of the time, and so on. So it was really, like, really difficult time to me understand it, right? And what I want to bring up is like how crucial is to have really good conversation, like really good communication, when it comes to, like, surviving in a business, and like having a partner align with you, who you are, because like that can be really tricky, because I had this, I've been always a different one, but she was literally the normal, like, type of, like, she wanted to go the way of being, just corporate employee, and so on. How this type of thing, can work together, so it's actually like somehow working, if you know what I'm trying to say. What is your thoughts on that, actually?
Communication is everything. I mean, that's why so many things fail or they implode or resentment comes into play because people aren't communicating what's actually on their mind. And when it comes to business or anything, it's like write down, like, here is what I want, here's what I'm looking for, here's who I am, here's what I don't want. Naming what you don't want is also important so
Mhm.
people have clarity. But here's where it gets mixed up. We expect people to know what we are thinking. We expect them to
Mhm.
know. Like it's this like unknowing lie of you should know this already, but they don't. Even our spouse. My husband and I have a lot of communication, and it's something I'm like, you should have had that a long time ago. I had to take responsibility of maybe I didn't say it clearly, or maybe they just didn't hear because they didn't have the space to hear it or understand it. Who knows?
Yep,
So it's
yep.
so important, especially in business partnership. I haven't been in too many business partnerships, and I was leery for a long time of, do I really want to do this? Because you have personalities and then you have egos and pride and like all this
Mm.
stuff that comes into play that you now have to work through and work around. You do learn a lot, and I'm super grateful for that season that I had
Mhm.
for just about 5 years. But what I would love in the beginning, if I could go back, is to really be like, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I wanted. And I said that, but then things do shift and change. So you have to understand, even if you list it of like, this is what I'm looking for and need, it could shift and change just based on the circumstances. But then you also have to be willing to listen to
Mhm.
them of like,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts? What are you getting from this? Like what's resonating with you? Because if what you're saying is not resonating, then we have to find another way to communicate it so they can understand. If they just don't want to understand, if it's not something they want to do, then that's a whole different situation entirely. But we
Mhm.
we get to be clear. It's not even a need, it's not even a have, it's a get to. Like it's an
Mhm.
opportunity to share the vision, share what you're looking for. How can we do this together? Marriage, a partnership in business, anything. The more clear we
Mhm.
can get, the better. And then, also just boundaries too. Boundaries are huge in partnerships where you have to know what you will tolerate, what you won't. And if something does bother you, if something comes up, have the hard conversation. That's another thing that so many people avoid is the hard conversation of, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Oh no, what's going to happen? Like, it has been such a liberating experience to learn how to have hard conversations. Hard, and I've messed up plenty. But sometimes I'll go to ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, here's what I want to say. I'm a very black and white person. How should I say it where I don't get my foot in my mouth and get in trouble? So I can come from, I do care about you, but I'm also like, here's what we need to do. I'm a very like action oriented person.
Mhm.
So feelings are sometimes on the back burner. but people want to be heard, they want to be seen. So you have to find a way for that to coexist.
Interesting. Okay. So when it comes to, do you have kids already?
No, we don't have kids yet.
You don't. If you would be planning to have kids, how would you prepare them for what is the world about? How is everything changes? Because when we what we can see with everything what is going on, how the world is set it up, the schooling system never changed like since I don't know whatever. Like if when I was in school, it's still the same system. Now with the AI and everything what is going on, like the technology is rising so fast and so on. How would you have you been already thinking about something like that? Like I don't know if you're planning to have a kid or something, but have you been thinking about it?
Absolutely. It was one of the first questions I asked my husband after date number one. When we were a husband and wife, I was like, how do you want to school your kids? Public school's a no for me. Private school's a no for me. Been to both. How do you want to do that? And so this was a long time ago. This was like, I
Yeah.
mean, probably like 7, 8 years ago that we had this
Mhm.
conversation. So, I always think about looking at what's happening now. Do I want the world to teach them when they open up their
Mhm.
iPad or open up technology, or do we want to teach them? So limiting their exposure to how chaotic the world can be, also having conversations of you will and hear crazy things, ask. Ask so you can understand. And then I've actually seen my sister-in-law do a really great job with my niece. She's 5 now, but she'll explain things. And I'll never forget there was one time I came over to watch her and she was like, "Okay, mommy and daddy have to leave." And she's like 3 years old. And she was like, "Where are you going?" And they're like, "We have to go get our taxes done." "What are taxes?" And they explained, "Oh, this is money we have to
Mhm.
give to the government." And I'm like, "Why are you explaining this to a 3-year-old?" Well, she remembered that. She understood to a degree, and they're training her brain to ask and not like just sit there, be quiet, we'll be home later. Like they will explain things to her and take the time, and her intelligence is just incredible because of that. So I saw a different side. When I was raised, it was just like, sit down, be quiet, do what you're told. And you were like, what do I do with that? You just feel like you're getting shut down all the
Yep.
time. So I've 100% thought about it, seen great examples, seen things I don't want to have happen. And then, when we get the opportunity to start our family, we will see where it goes. I'm sure we'll have plenty of challenges, but with the mindset of how can we really steward these human beings that we've brought into this earth so then they can be able to have a loving home, better understanding, because the world's going to do what the world's going to do, but it doesn't mean they have to go into that system. And maybe they will. Maybe my kids will eventually want to go to college and do all of that. Do I think college is a great route? Not for most, in my opinion, not for most, even though I went to college.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, but if they want to do that, they still get the freedom to choose because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
their right.
This is really interesting because I didn't know that you went to college and so on. So because like most of the entrepreneurs I usually like drop out, um, I don't really even know about anyone who, yeah, not in my circle, who is literally like went through college and so on. So for me, it's like it's total like I don't know. School for me was completely like I couldn't figure out what is the reason like why we are learning stuff that is actually not really affecting our lives and so on, like how
Hmm.
we nobody teaches us how we can um because the life, like if we're gonna be completely clear about it, life is pretty much about money. Everything's going about around money, and we have never been taught about money, which is freaking crazy to me. And like
Hmm.
when we if you even now, when I get into money and start studying this type of things, I have to teach my parents about money because they don't understand it, and this is insane,
Wow.
and so on. So, have you been studying money or have you been doing something around it? How did you get into understanding money and so on?
That is a great question. Yes, there is. I think that's part of the brainwashing, right? Like the less they know, the better. Rack up credit card debt, be swamped, be drowning, and we want you there. So you're in that perpetual cycle. And I've been in that cycle before. When I was in the news, I had to open up 3 credit cards to just survive and have basic things,
Mhm.
or just to get a plane ticket home to go see my family for Christmas if I had it off. And so that to me was wild. And I suffered from that debt for a very long time. But there is so much lack of education around money. And once I got into entrepreneurship and seeing like, wow, how are these people making like 100 grand a month? How are they making 50 grand a month? Like what is that? And what would you do with that? So it actually had to start with a belief of like, I mean, am I worth making that kind of
Mhm.
money? Would somebody pay me that? Can I build something like that? So you have to work through those beliefs of if they can do it, why can't I? What are they doing that I'm not? So that is the first hump. And then understanding money, how it is a tool. It is a tool and really a tool to be multiplied. And so many of us live scared or we spend money on dumb things. I remember my husband and I, when we first, maybe like a year or two into marriage, we were like, okay, let's start really budgeting and getting into things. And I remember I would see his like, $300 a month on like coffee and cigars. And I was like, hey, you're going to have to stop going to Starbucks. You're going to have to start making coffee from home. That is outrageous. I was like, this is insane. And so it's
Interesting.
being a good steward of, do I really need that? Do I not? So, being able to be around people who know better budgeting habits and tips. And I have some great resources for that. I have people that have really helped me. So I can make my money stretch and last longer and investing into different areas. So I'm not constantly having to work for it. Luckily, my mom is really savvy with that. Her dad, my grandpa was savvy with that. So I was in a house where I was learning those types of things. But back then, like probably like my mid 20s and earlier, I just was blowing through money of like, whatever I feel
Mhm.
like, let's just do the thing. So I've learned the hard way. And now it's, what do we really need? Because I really want this investment or the better thing later. So
Yep.
it's just different as an adult, just different choices.
Interesting. Okay. So, are your parents actually educated about money, or they been literally you had to, they literally had the traditional education as most of the people are basically having.
My mom she went up to get her master's. My dad, no college education. I think he had 1 year in like a community college, one maybe, and then just got into construction. So completely opposite for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. So from there, how did you actually get into, public speaking and doing what you do right now, helping people with, stories and so on? Because like you said something, I think I missed that first, that you were working for TV or something
Hmm.
like that. Correct?
Hmm.
Okay. I can feel a lot from you, how you speak and how you like literally based on probably the experience and long time doing this type of thing that you are really really skilled in that area. So I'm really interested in diving a little bit deeper into that, where that confidence and the way that you behave and how you're showing up is actually like, where did this come from, and like how you've been even able to get into that point of being so great at communication and so on.
Well, I would say being in television definitely helped because I messed up more times than anybody else could even count on live television.
Yeah.
So I have bloopers I think it's Molly Gomez on YouTube. I keep them up there. Like, go have a good laugh. I have just messed up more times, but it's also like a craft, right? If you're going to go to the
Yep.
gym and you want to work on building a muscle, you are going to focus on that muscle. You are going to critique of like, okay, how can I get better at this? Now, I don't like critiquing necessarily when it comes to your voice. I like feedback of you have to go watch yourself back. Like you can record yourself on your phone. Podcasting is an incredible tool to become a better speaker. We did not have that back when I was in TV. Like this is more, yeah, this is a lot newer, but it was a lot of practice and then listening to myself, seeing, well, what did I look like? What was my face doing? Was I talking too fast? Like always all these different things because I wanted to make sure that the message was coming clear, that it landed for people. It wasn't too fast. I had to work through different, I call them crutch words like the ums and the uhs and the I say a lot. That's mine. So I still have these things and that's human, but I've just practiced over and over and over again because all of us, it doesn't matter if we have a television background or not. If you want to become a more impactful speaker, one that really is able to shift rooms, share a story powerfully, tell your story or share your program with whoever, or maybe just even be a better communicator with people around you, your friends and family. It takes practice. It takes listening to yourself. And a lot of times we want to share about 7 stories in one sitting. Share the one story, make it clear, and then leave room to breathe and move on to the next. So many people are so, oh,
Mm,
I have the mic, I can
interesting.
talk. Let me hurry up and shove it all in one. And with my clients, there's this framework that I have. It's called the 3 pillar exercise that takes, I call it the spaghetti bowl brain, all these noodles floating around. How can we take out one noodle at a time? Like, let's make sense of what story and when.
Yeah.
And that's actually a free gift on my website, signaturestoryco.com. You can go there, you can click on it, sign up for it. It's a download. But it just helps bring clarity because
Yeah.
whether you want to speak on a stage, on social media, or just to the person next to you, it matters so much. So it practice looking at yourself of like, okay, how do I sound? Is this how I want to this be perceived? And then just going for it. And I have messed up so many times. I could tell you so many great stories of me messing up live, whether it's on the news or just even on an Instagram live. And you just roll with it. And
Yeah.
you didn't die.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Totally. Totally. So when you speak, do you have some type of like framework that you are going over and over again, like or how do you know like where to go so people like keep listening and do not
Mhm.
like fade off from the or just leave or so on?
That's a great question. That tells me that you really care about what you're sharing because most public speakers, there's a difference between a public speaker and a great communicator.
Mhm.
Public speakers are like, it's about me, how I look, and you're blessed to be in the room. A lot of people have that energy. It's terrible. But a great communicator is how can I make sure that they are engaged? This is about them, it's serving them to help give something to them at the end of the day and shift the atmosphere. And those are the people I love to work with because it truly is a heart posture of how I can serve. And I have
Mhm.
an acronym that I walk people through. It's called the story framework. So I'll
Mhm.
kind of breeze through it if you would like for people to be able to kind of
100%.
walk through the framework. And this is great to set up what you want to say for your story, almost like an elevator pitch, but then you can go in depth later. But
Yeah.
getting it really tight in the front end is so important because we could go on for hours, I'm sure. But how can you make it so clear that people are like, well, that's it? I want more. So the story framework helps you do that. And so the S in story stands for setting the stage. Who are you speaking to? Who is this for? You can start with if you're on stage, for example, you want to tell a great story, you can start with a joke. You can start with a quote. A lot of coaches
Mhm.
that I work with, they start with who are they speaking to? Is it corporate women wanting to create their own business? Is it, a woman that is a stay-at-home mom that wants to be able to know how she can make time in her day to earn a little extra cash on the side. I mean, you have to know who you're speaking to. Otherwise, no one's going to know this is for me. Now, the T is the tension. This is where you bring in the problem. Here's the problem that these people are going through. Or here's the problem that you want to present. And then you're going to bring in your experience that you've had with this problem because most people respond to negativity first, unfortunately. So you bring the problem in. I've been there too, and this was my experience. So now they know you're not just speaking at them, you're with them in this, with those that are resonating. They're like, oh, they get it. And then the T also stands for turning point, from tension to turning point. So there was that moment where it was kind of like that messy middle of like, okay, I could either fork in the road, give up, or push through. This obviously you've pushed through at this point. What was that like rock bottom moment or that mind shift or that moment? What was that like? And then you start talking about the outcome of what came from that, how you overcame what you went through. And then the R is the realization of if I've gone through this, I know other people are too. I know they're going through this too. And the why is kind of the call to action. What's your next step? So, what do you need to do after this? So, for coaches, it might be comment below or reach out to me to connect, or somebody else is they pose a question, a reflection question for them to think of. Don't just sit here and absorb this information, but what do you need to do in order to change your life? Don't just let this be a talk that you just heard, but go move, go implement. So, setting the stage, tension and turning point, the outcome, the overcome, the realization, and then your next steps. That's the story framework to really set things up. And I'll set it up and help people get it to like 30 to 60 seconds max. And then of course you can always go into more detail about your story portion, meaning like the tension and turning point. You can build in more detail there, or the overcoming part, build in more detail there. Allow to pull on those emotions to connect with people. Like let them see inside of like, oh yeah, here I am now. But it wasn't always just unicorns and rainbows. It was like I almost gave up and I felt like I was dying. But I said, you know what? This can't be it. And I can't let this die here. I need to go share this with other people. So I'm deciding right now we are going to do something different. And aren't those the stories that we love to hear? The ones that could have and probably should have given up, but they didn't. And every single person listening to this has I call it a signature story. I just walked you through the story framework. We all have that. And so it's just a matter of like, do we want to create it and then go start sharing it?
Mm, yeah. So how did you figure out this type of framework? Was there trial and errors, or like using or being inspired by other like, for example, because I've been studying also like Two Heroes Journey and so on. So how did that come to you?
It was just lived experience of I kept walking people through something similar like this. And eventually I'm like, let's just put an acronym to it. Easy to remember, easy framework. So then I spelled out story, but I've walked them through these steps for many, many years, even myself on how I process, how do I need to share an effective message? So then story came along and I'm like, oh, perfect. Because you're sharing a story. It's the story framework. And obviously that's something that sticks.
Yeah, really cool. So now we dove into framework and so on. Let's talk about the mindset that is necessary for being able to present yourself powerfully and being influential and so on, so people can actually listen to you, and you can actually you know make the change in their lives and so on. So how somebody who is struggling with this, for example, like they are more introverted or so on, like what would be your way of getting over that that feeling, that beliefs, basically. um and yeah, is there some type of do you have some type of framework going through also, or something like that, or what is your belief actually on about it?
When it comes to introverts, there are a lot of people who aren't as outspoken, right? And so they're like, oh, I want to be a little bit more reserved, but it doesn't mean you don't have a voice. So you have to ask yourself that question. Did somebody tell you along the way, or did you start believing a lie in your own mind of my voice doesn't matter? Let's scrape that off the table and get rid of that lie altogether. Whether you were told or you were thinking about it, it has become a pattern where you're like, oh, somebody else can take care of it. But that person doesn't have your story. So we have to move that off the table. So it's asking that question first. Then from there, take the signature story framework and start mapping yours out. And everybody wants to be heard to some degree. To some degree. Or, I work with a lot of people, they just want to share their testimony of like what has happened in their life. And maybe there's no monetization with it. Amazing. Because maybe your story is going to inspire somebody else to get into action, and that could be the next Jeff Bezos. I mean, you never know what that can do. You never know what it can be the catalyst for and for who. So we just get to get out of our own heads of why are we believing that lie? It's not serving anyone. Deep down, you're sad about it. Most people are. But there's something in there that you've gone through that other people need. It could just be sharing it with people in your friend circle, could be sharing it on social media, it could be a business, it could be a lot of things, right? So that really is the first stop. And I see a lot of people, even very successful people, get in their own minds and own heads of, oh, I shouldn't share that. I don't know how to do that. And they live in fear of, if I do that, what will it do to my business? And
Mm,
for a prime example, I've had a lot of people come to me and they want to integrate their faith beliefs with their business, but they're terrified, if I do that, what is it going to do to my business? I had to make that
mm,
decision a long time ago. And I would say, well, great. This is what I believe. This is how I do things. And if you believe the same way, you want to come in and work with me, amazing. If not, amazing. If
mm,
it's not for you, great. There are plenty other places on the internet. But we're so used to people pleasing that we don't want to push anyone away. But if we
mm,
start acting like our true self, sharing our real story, we are going to have those that resonate with it. So it actually makes social media not feel so distant. I've
mm,
met some of my dearest friends. I met my husband because of social media, because we both ended up at an event because of what I posted on my profile. I have met so many incredible people that have changed my life because of it. And you never know when that can happen. So it's just a matter of, are you going to decide to do it or not? It's
mm.
really a simple decision.
Yeah, yeah. I had to go through some type of decisions when it comes to the way, if I'm what I believe in, and so on, same way, right? It was, yeah, for me it was pretty interesting because I've always been type of like behind the scenes guy. I've never been like talking like in front of the camera and so on, but like last year at the beginning I made a step and started being in front of the camera and being the brand basically a little bit more, and lots of things shifted pretty fast. I didn't understand how that is even possible, but um, since that time, I've never had more opportunities than actually. It's just insane. Like
Yes.
just talking about it and thinking about it. So when it comes to, for example, somebody who is, and like have these insecurities that is not enough and so on, you said that you are a believer, right? You are a Christian. Are you
Yes.
Christian?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, when it comes to that, how you deal with, you know, because for me, basically, because I'm Christian too, I had to think through certain things. Also, people don't really understand Christianity. There is like lots of like misconceptions and so on. Like people don't really understand. Like I had this type of since my young age, I didn't really don't know what to think about it, because like my family is really traditional, that we've been going to school, to church and so on, but I've never really understand what to think and how to actually take it from what side, right? But then once I start figuring things out when it comes to Christianity and so on, God has already told us who we are, so I overcome that struggle when it comes to uh, don't be as certain in myself, also like what other people think about us and think about me and so on, because he already told us who we are, so we don't really have to listen to anybody else, because they don't know who they even are, so how they can tell us who we are, because
Hmm.
he already told us. So when it comes to you and Christianity and all of that, what just mentioned, did you have you been always like confident in yourself, or did you have to build this up? And was there something with with what you believe, like with Christianity, um did it help you to do so, or how the process was for you?
Yes, it was definitely something I had to grow into. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
something that was taught, and definitely coming into business, it was you don't put politics and your beliefs in your business, keep it separate. When really it's like just let people know what you believe and where you're at, and be open to a conversation, even from the opposing side. Like it's okay. Like that is what makes life beautiful. Is like we don't have to all believe the same thing, but let's have respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned Christianity has a lot of misconceptions, and I agree. I have seen horrible things in the church, horrible things from
Mm-hmm.
Christians. And I've also seen what a Christian is being like Christ. And Christ
Mm-hmm.
came, Jesus Christ came as the most perfect example. He went from a deity in the heavens down to earth in human form. He lived to serve, and then he died a painful death so we could have salvation. He was
Mm-hmm.
perfect. He led a perfect life. And in the Gospels, you get to see that played out. If you ever need a leadership lesson, go read the Gospels, any of them, and you'll be able to see how he addressed things. And you'll be able to see how he led his disciples and how he led himself. He was tempted like we were. He fasted for 40 days. The devil came and he was like, how can we tempt him? But he couldn't find any foothold, couldn't find anything. So when we understand, especially as a believer from my perspective and my relationship with the Lord, he's already told me who I am. I am an image of him. I am his
Mm-hmm.
highest form of creation. Why am I thinking in the rebel that my voice doesn't matter? What I do doesn't matter. Everything you do, it matters. And I call it my name of my podcast actually came from all of this. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you. Everything that you do is bigger than you. Everything. And so many people just think that like, oh, I don't matter, I'm not worthy. And that is a lie from the enemy. And I just come against that in Jesus' name. Like so many people think that way. I've had many moments where I've thought that way because that's what I was around. And then I looked around being like, what am I doing here? So the rooms that you're in, the people you are listening to, it matters. It matters. And the older I get, the more refined I get, the less people I listen to and the less people I want to be around. Like, I don't really care to go out. I don't really care to be. My husband and I moved to Las Vegas several months ago, and they're like, "Do you go out?" We're like, "No, we go eat." Like, I don't want to be around that mess. I really don't, unless I'm called to go do something over there. I would rather have peace and be like, "Who do you want me to serve? What is that?" And if I don't hear anything, then I am still and I am waiting. I'm not trying to bring something up just to stay busy. I'm in alignment of like, Lord, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And I know a part of my assignment in that alignment is calling people up and forward and out of the darkness they've been sitting in, because maybe that's what's been around them their entire life. And you can get out. I have seen it happen to people in my life where they have been in one season where they had no hope and they were thinking about ending it, but God. And you get to make that choice. So maybe you're not that far at this point, but you have something that needs life and you get to think, what can I do to bring this to life? Who do I need to be around to make this happen? So that's what I'm so grateful for, like podcasts like this, where you're helping people who have been brainwashed for so long, sticking in the same rut. It's time to get out and it's time to move forward. So that is what I would say about that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure to have you. Before we let you go, where people can find you, do you have some type of website where you can find you, or social media and so on?
Of course, of course. So my website is signaturestoryco.com. And we were talking about the 3-pillar exercise to help you with your story. Right when you go on the website, there will be a pop-up and it's a free download. So go ahead and click into that. Outside of that, Molly Gomez across the board. I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Substack, you name it. I'm pretty much everywhere. And if there was something in this episode that really shifted your perspective or you were blessed by, let us know. Like, drop me a message. I still do most of my own DMs because I love interacting with people. It is not a bot. It is not somebody else. It is me, because it is about people. That is the assignment. So I would love to be able to hear from you. And Adam, thank you again for having me on here. This has been so fun to have this conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for everybody who's listening, we will see you in the next episode. Bye.